Amini, and today I'm going to talk to you about the No Child Left Behind Act. The law that is known as No Child Left Behind is the primary decree leading the federal government's role in education. It was first passed during the Johnson administration as the Elementary and Secondary Education Act, and then rebranded in 2001 when Democrats joined President George Bush to focus on standardized test scores. The real question now is, should requiring public school students to pass a mandatory test each year be a feature of the No Child Left Behind law? There are some people who proclaim that this law helps give poor students the kinds of choices that wealthier students have. Although this has been true in some schools, the No Child Left Behind Act has negatively impacted the majority of our public schools in America. This includes poor districts, which have experienced even deeper distress since the law was set in place. Truthfully, there are more people who avidly believe this law was a grave mistake than a success. As a future educator, I'm here to explain to all of you why this law must be either amended or rather entirely erased. To preface, you must understand that the No Child Left Behind Act took the government where it has never gone before. The federal government, which contributes only 9 cents of every $1 spent on U.S. schools, now tells the state how to measure school success. They tell schools how to determine qualifications for teachers and even tell the nation how to teach reading. Many teachers are enraged by the emphasis on standardized exams and the constant efforts to raise scores. They believe that this has stunted the pursuit of the broader vision of education. More than 30,000 educators and concerned citizens have signed an online petition calling for the repeal of the act. Some offer comments like this one from a former superintendent of a school in Ohio. He says the No Child Left Behind Act is like a Russian novel. It's long, it's complicated, and in the end, everybody gets killed. To commence, one of the deepest problems within the No Child Left Behind Act is that it only rewards schools that focus on children that are right below the grade level proficiency. There's no incentive for schools to do much of anything for kids who are on grade level or even above. And sadly, the No Child Left Behind Act provides no incentive to help kids that are far, far below the bar. This means that thousands of children fall through the cracks every day. Sterling Garris, a principal in Philadelphia, has plenty of such low achievers at his school. A few months ago, he was walking down his school hallways when an overjoyous reading teacher came rushing up to him with an excited third grader. She said that the student had just jumped 4 reading levels. But although Garris congratulated the student, he sadly knew that this achievement would not be recognized under the terms set by the No Child Left Behind Act. This child has had tremendous growth, but he will still fail the test because he isn't on grade level. There really is nothing worse than knowing that a child who has worked so hard will forever experience a sense of failure. Another grave issue that the No Child Left Behind Act has created is watered down material. The 50 states are no longer setting the bar high enough for their students. States that have a tough curriculum and tough exams, such as California and Massachusetts, are engaging in more rigorous education. However, they're setting themselves up to fail in the No Child Left Behind terms. No wonder so many states have watered down their expectations. They are only responsible for the material that is on these standardized tests. If they do not focus most of their time on this rigid material, there's a greater chance they will not pass their annual standards, which means they will not receive necessary funds. What a horrible cycle. Another reality of the No Child Left Behind Act is the loss of important subjects. Because the law holds schools accountable only in reading and math, there's growing evidence that schools are not giving enough attention to other subjects. Education as a whole is being distorted and narrowed. In a survey of 300 school districts conducted by the Center on Education Policy, 71% of the local administrators admitted that this was actually the case in their elementary schools. Over the past 10 years, on average, reading instruction gained 40 minutes a week, while social studies lost about 17 minutes and science lost about 23 minutes a week. In many schools, science is no longer taught as a standalone subject, and social studies is handled in the same way. The reality is reading about science isn't the same as incubating chick eggs and watching them hatch. Cutting out field trips to Civil War sites and museums in order to drill social studies vocabulary words is not how you teach a love for history. For most children, hands-on activities are the best part of school. The part that keeps them engaged. This is what is slowly being sucked out of most schools in America. Now, no one has all the answers to America's challenges in education. There must be a revision or even an extreme solution like diminish the law entirely. An estimated $600 million a year now spent on state testing programs could be used to improve instruction. In addition, good teachers need to be placed in bad school districts. There needs to be an improvement in federal funding formulas so that schools in poor neighborhoods will have the resources to address their weaknesses and especially afford to hire experienced teachers. This is the best way to address the achievement gap between the rich and the poor. In closing, it is clear that the No Child Left Behind Act was written with honorable intentions to help. However, the deep involvement of the federal government has actually done our education a disservice. Although this is not true in all cases, research reveals it is true in most. The brutal reality is that this law is affecting our children in a negative way. We must not sit around any longer and wait for suggestions. It is time to start proposing solutions of our own and fighting for them. The education systems are responsible for preparing the next generation to lead our country. These children must learn how to critically think and function on their own. Learning how to bubble in answers on multiple choice tests will never fully accomplish this goal. It is imperative that federal policymakers listen hard to the people who are working in the nation's schools every day. It is the only way to ensure that policies that sound great in Washington aren't leaving educational reality behind. Thank you.
Very good.